Have you ever had that moment when you realize no one in your family really knows you? Like, no matter how hard you try, you're always just a background character in their story? I figured that out in the cruelest way possible, with a microphone, spotlights, and 200 pairs of eyes judging every inch of my existence. It was one of those magazine cover weddings, warm lights, golden candlesticks, white petals scattered like happiness was some obvious path. But to me, that hall felt like a courtroom, and I was the defendant. The burgundy dress I'd picked so carefully screamed in the middle of that chic beige palette. While the guests toasted, I kept busy helping my 8-year-old daughter, Vic, adjust the dress she hated. I didn't even notice when Camille, my younger sister, grabbed the mic. Attention, everyone.
Before the first dance,
I need to give a special thanks.
everyone stopped. I stopped.
And she looked at me like someone aiming before pulling the trigger. To my sister, the eternal spinster, our Instagram warrior, single mom and inspiration to never settle for less than we deserve. I mean, just look how she turned out. Laughter broke out.
Not the shy kind.
The kind of laughter that comes from people relieved they're not the target. My dad, next to me, threw out a, "That's my girl." And I swear I didn't know if he was talking about Camille or me. In that second, I didn't feel anger.
Or sadness.
Just that cold, the same kind you get when you fall and aren't sure if you've broken something. And there was Vic, squeezing my hand, eyes wide, silently asking if that was normal. And that's how it started. The day my sister's wedding turned into the perfect wreck. And though I didn't know it yet, the one who would change everything wasn't me, it was my daughter. My name is Melanie, I'm 35, Vic's mom, and I've been a lot of things in life. The daughter who always did what she was told, the sister who said it's fine even when it wasn't, the girlfriend who swallowed crap just to not seem dramatic. And of course, the single mom the whole family uses as an example of how not to live. What no one sees, or prefers to ignore, is that I'm so much more than the mom who got abandoned.
I'm the one who stayed. Who raised.
Who taught Vic how to tie her shoelaces, make pancakes, never mock anyone, no matter how tempting it was. But at that party, none of those achievements existed. I was just the uncomfortable reminder of failure, the woman who couldn't keep a man. That was the invisible title I carried as I walked among the tables decorated with white flowers and glass candlesticks, stumbling over the polite words people threw at me. Wow, she's getting so big. As if my daughter was just some accident that happened to grow up. In the Trudeau family, my last name, ironically tied to glamour and power, women are supposed to be perfect, well-married, and discreet. Camille figured that out early, became a wedding influencer before she even got engaged.
Me?
I became a statistic. That day, in the flawless ceremony she'd planned for months, I knew my role was the usual. Smile, help, don't ask questions. But part of me, maybe for the first time in years, was exhausted with that role. And I just didn't realize that the one who would break the script wasn't me, but a little girl, 4 feet 3 inches, with the bravest eyes I'd ever seen. The background music was low, almost an elegant whisper among conversations and toasts. I was near the dessert table, helping Vic choose between pistachio macarons or mini cheesecakes, when I heard my name yanked out like a rug. "Melanie, come here. Everyone wants to see you." Camille's voice cut through the hall, full of that fake enthusiasm only someone close would catch. The room turned, domino effect.
And I froze.
Vic grabbed my dress, and I forced a smile, crossing the hall to the stage set up under a shower of looks that ranged from pity to amusement. "For those who don't know," she started, already making the crowd laugh like some stand-up pro, "this is my older sister.
Our resilience muse."
She raised Vic all by herself, after a series of questionable choices. Right, Mel? The laughter spread. My dad, already a few drinks in, laughed out loud. My mom turned her face away, like saying, "This has nothing to do with me." "But seriously," Camille went on, faking empathy, gripping the mic with both hands, posing for the photographers, "you're an example, Mel. Even being, what is it again?
Oh, right.
A single mom, kind of like a discounted model with the tag crossed out." More laughter. For a second, I thought my hearing had failed.
But no.
The words hung in the air, sharp, cutting more deeply than any silk dress could shield. Vic looked up at me, confused. She didn't get the mockery, but she felt the tension.
I did what I always did, swallowed it.
I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, with that soulless smile, while my sister reveled in her own joke. And right then, in that exact second, something happened that changed everything. Vic let go of my hand. And I didn't even notice. While I was still trying to figure out how to keep breathing in that hall that felt smaller by the second, I heard the sound of a mic being pulled from the stand. That classic static sound, that brief PFFFF, made everyone turn around. And there she was.
Vic.
Standing in the middle of the stage, her little dress all crooked, gripping the microphone with both hands like she was holding a sword way too heavy for her age. "Sorry, Mom," she said first, looking at me with those brown eyes full of things she didn't even know how to name yet, but she could feel them. Camille, clueless, chuckled. "Vic, sweetheart, this isn't the time for jokes." But Vic didn't move. She just took a deep breath, exactly the way I'd taught her when she got nervous before school performances. I heard Aunt Camille talking on the phone.
The hall went dead silent.
The DJ, who had been scrolling through a playlist, froze with his finger in midair. The only sound was ice melting in glasses. She told a friend that she doesn't love Uncle Daniel. That she's only marrying him because he's rich, and that after the wedding, she's moving out so she never has to deal with people like my mom again. It was like someone had yanked the power cord from the entire hall. The chandelier kept shining, the flowers were still there, but no one was breathing. Camille froze, her lips parted, no sound coming out.
Me?
I wanted to run to her, pull her away, shield her from this crowd of boundaryless adults. But I couldn't move.
Not an inch.
Vic stood there, steady, like the strong woman she's not yet, but I always knew she'd become. And before anyone could say a word, she finished, "I love my mom. And no one can talk bad about her." She put the microphone back on the stand and walked off the stage, coming straight to me. Hugged me tight, like by doing that, she could piece me back together from all the parts scattered on the floor. And I let her.
I let her save me.
For a few seconds, no one knew what to do. The entire hall felt like it was in slow motion. Even the photographer, who hadn't stopped clicking all night, was now holding the camera against his chest, frozen. Camille stepped forward, trying to claw back the control she always thought she had over everything and everyone. That's not true.
She's just a kid.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. Her voice shook, but the tone was still that of someone used to winning arguments by yelling louder. But this time, it didn't work. From the back of the hall, a voice broke the silence like a quiet but deadly thunderclap. "It's true." Everyone turned.
It was Isabel.
Camille's former best friend Anne, important detail, the groom's godmother. She stood there, flawless in an emerald green dress, arms crossed, with a look that mixed pity and contempt. "I was there, Camille. I heard the same thing. You said, laughing, that you were marrying for money, that Daniel was a safe investment. And that afterward you'd figure out how to cut out anyone who reminded you you're not as perfect as you pretend to be." The words came out cold, unhurried, like someone who knows the impact doesn't need any extra push. Camille's eyes went wide, her mouth trembling as she tried to string together a defense but only found empty syllables. And then, as if scripted, Daniel, the groom, walked back into the hall. He'd stepped out seconds before Vic's confession, maybe to breathe, maybe to keep from exploding. Now, he held a phone in his hand, with that look of someone who'd already heard enough. He walked up to Isabel, took the phone from her hand, and hit play. The sound echoed through the whole hall, the recording, perfect, crystal clear, of Camille saying exactly that, laughing, mocking, saying only an idiot marries for love. The hall didn't breathe. The DJ shut off the music completely. And my sister just collapsed, clutching the skirt of her dress like she could hide inside it.
And me?
I just held Vic tighter and whispered, "Thank you." But she didn't answer. She just stayed there, breathing fast, her chest rising and falling like a little warrior after battle. For a second, a naive one, I thought that after all that, someone in my family might finally hug me. That my mom, maybe, would finally say, "You were right." Or that my dad, at least, would look at me with that pride he always saved just for Camille.
But no.
What came instead was a clean punch, the kind you don't even see coming. My mom was the first to approach, her hands clenched around her satin clutch, her eyes blazing. "You had no right," she hissed, like I was the villain of the night.
"Look what you taught Vic.
You made her a gossip, a rude little girl." I just stood there, in disbelief.
They were really doing this.
It didn't matter that Camille had destroyed Daniel's life, exposed everyone to this public humiliation.
No.
To them,
The real problem was me.
Always me. My dad chimed in, slurring from the whiskey. See? That's what happens when you raise a girl without a father, without a role model. A girl with no respect. Vic gripped my hand even tighter, shrinking behind me. Stop, I said, my voice steady for the first time that night.
But they kept going.
Camille, sobbing on the staircase of the stage, screamed, "You ruined my wedding, Melanie."
You.
And in that moment, I realized, it didn't matter how much I stayed quiet, how much I avoided conflict. I would always be the easiest target. Their emotional punching bag. The sister who ruined everything. And still, I didn't feel ashamed.
Not this time.
For the first time in years, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd just let my daughter defend me, and she did it with more dignity than any adult in that room could muster. I took a deep breath and knelt down to Vic's level, running my fingers through her hair, while the chaos kept boiling around us. And then, what I least expected, happened. While my mom was still spewing accusations and Camille cried with her makeup smeared, the entire hall turned again. A sharp sound echoed, the click of Daniel's shoes crossing the marble floor with firm steps. He stopped right in the center, beside the stage, holding the phone switched off in one hand like it was dead weight, and the wedding ring in the other. He looked at Camille for a few seconds that felt like forever, while she sobbed, mumbling things no one could understand. And then, with surgical calm, he turned to everyone and said, "I just want to thank
Melanie. And Vic." The whole hall froze.
Not even the waiters moved anymore. Daniel continued, "If it weren't for you, I would have made the biggest mistake of my life. I would have spent years with someone who sees me as an investment and who despises her own family. That's not love." Then, he looked straight at me, and for the first time that night, I didn't look away. "I'm sorry for judging you before, Melanie. I always thought you were weak, for raising Vic alone, for failing at marriage. But today I saw you're the strongest one here." And then, without another word, he placed the ring on the glass table, turned, and left.
Just like that.
He left Camille collapsing among the floral arrangements and the whole hall in shock. Some guests started getting up, whispering. Others just sat there, frozen, like they were watching a play with an ending far crueler than they could have ever predicted. Me, still holding Vic tight against my waist, I could only think, it's over. But the most surprising part wasn't the groom walking out or the public exposure. It was the way, in that moment, Daniel looked at me, not with pity, not with contempt, but with respect.
And that
I had never felt from anyone in my family. After Daniel left, the hall felt drained of air. The lights were still on, the DJ still frozen, but there was no more party. My sister's wedding, planned down to the smallest detail for 2 years, ended right there, in a matter of minutes. Camille stayed sitting on the stage, surrounded by a few friends trying to comfort her, but without much conviction. My parents vanished among the guests, maybe to avoid the shame or maybe just to not have to deal with what they always avoided, the truth.
And me?
I stood there, Vic hugging my waist, feeling that small warmth, but full of courage. I looked at her and asked softly, "You okay?" She nodded, then told me something I'll never forget. "I just got sad because you got sad.
But now, I'm okay." And I smiled. Honest, full, for the first time in years. Not because of the chaos we left behind, but because of the certainty that finally hit me with unstoppable force. I don't need their approval. I never did. I have my daughter's love. I have the courage I helped grow in her. And I have, finally, the freedom to no longer carry the expectations that always crushed me. I grabbed my purse, adjusted the strap of my dress that kept slipping, and with Vic by my side, we walked across the hall with our heads held high, under looks of shock, respect, and even admiration. At the exit, the maitre d', a little awkward, asked, "Would you like us to pack up the cake for you to take?" I laughed. "No, thanks.
You can offer it to whoever wants it. We already had our slice." And we walked out, into the cold night, but with our hearts warmer than ever. As we made our way to the car, Vic looked up at me and said, with that sincere, kid-like tone, "This was the best wedding I've ever been to."
And I answered, "It really was, sweetheart. It really was."
And just like that, on a night that was supposed to be someone else's grand success, I finally found my own new beginning.